was that? Oh, man.
You're pathetic.
No. You're full of shit.
You know, this is why your mom ditched your stupid ass. This is why your dad was never around. This is why he was at the bar till 2 a.m. every night. Because you weren't worth spending time with. You just can't get it. You're such a baby. Why do you think it is that your father preferred the company of whiskey and alcoholics to spending time with his only son? Is it because you're special? Is it because you have something to offer this world?
I don't know what you're talking about. That's not even me anymore. Taking this test 3 freaking times. I have to pass it this time.
What do you mean? Listen to me. Put the book down.
No, that's not it. I've just been working so many freaking hours and just got all these things going on at the store. It's hard to juggle it all. That's all it is. It's all it is.
What are you doing? You're never going to pass. Even if you do pass, who are you going to help? Who's going to believe you? Who's going to trust you? You're almost 40. You haven't done anything but work in retail. Who's going to trust their health and their future with you? Why are you wasting your time?
I'm done listening to you. No more. That's it. You just need to stop.
Give up. You weren't cut out for this.
Just saying that. You're saying that because you want me to not be my best self.
You're going to still go through with it, aren't you? You're still going to try.
You're wrong. This is going to work. This is my mission. And part of my mission is to silence you.
You're just going to be disappointed.
I'm stronger than you.
Haven't you forgot your
words cannot affect me. Bye. Woo. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Sovereign Mind, Body, and Soul podcast with Coach Jerry. I am your host, Coach Jerry. And I do need a little minute after that. So that was something that I was a little bit reluctant to share. But I thought it was so appropriate and so fitting for today's topic. Today's topic is one of my favorite things in the world to talk about. In case, for those of you who don't know, I started this podcast to share my heart and soul and the truth about health and rehabilitation. I firmly believe we all have the ability to break the programming that has been ingrained into us. And that programming has led us to believe that we always need a doctor. We always need a pill or some sort of drug or something to take whenever we feel bad. And quite honestly, that's morphing into the holistic natural healing world as well. But that's something that, it's our job to be able to discern through that. So and the actual truth is that your body was made to heal. Like your mind, body, and soul complex will guide each other to the solution. That's just the way it is. And today's episode is brought to you by something I'm very excited to bring to you. This is Jerry's Organic Superfood and Supplements lineup. I've partnered with a company who provides the gold standard in supplements, meal replacements, and the highest quality CBD on the market. Click my Linkfly link in my bio and you can save $50 today. So I know that sounds kind of ironic after what I just said, but quite honestly, that's the reason why I did it, is because there's so much out there as far as people just recommending taking this supplement, take this drug, take this supplement, take this drug, right? And the fact of the matter is it's got to be a good combination of both worlds. You've got to use excellent discernment, right? When we are navigating our rehabilitation process and our healing process. So today, it is my pleasure to bring onto the show someone who I very much look up to, and I have for a couple years now. We are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, like I said, in the whole wide world, and that is answering the call from God. What call am I talking about? The call from God to get your ass moving on your mission, on your purpose, why you were put here. And a big part of that intro video was basically a gross exaggeration of a lot of the battles that I fought as I was going through my answering of God's call. And there was a lot of that questioning. Are you sure? Like, are you sure you can do this? Are you sure this is the right move for you? I'm looking, are you sure this is the right move for me? So when I reached out to Kirsti a couple weeks ago and said, what do you want to talk about? And I'd already had the idea for this video in my mind for a similar broadcast. And she just lays it out there. And I'm like, yes, please, let's do this. But I mentioned earlier that I've been looking up to Kirsti for a while. And, every once in a while you come across somebody and for whatever reason, like you like their style, you like their delivery, you like their message. And Kirsti is definitely one of those. And just so happens last summer while I was at the Czech Institute getting certified for integrated movement science level 4, Kirsti was there and she was filming and just being super busy, just not getting anybody's way, but just staying on task and efficient, grabbing us on our breaks and having us film clips and whatnot. But Kirsti, as I've been following your content is amazing. Like it is absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of us, we miss each other's content sometimes, right? Because we're all busy trying to spread the same message. But I wanted to take the opportunity, and I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and join me, but I want to take the opportunity to show you off to my audience, because they're used to listening to me blab all the damn time. But I want them to get a taste of you, because you just have this way of delivering the truth in a very matter of fact way, but also in a way that's digestible and discernible for the audience. So I could sit here and talk about you all day, but I'm sure everybody would love to hear what you have to say. So Kirsti, you specialize in health and exercise kinesiology. Much like myself, you're studying at the Czech Institute. You're up to IMS level 2, HLC level 3. And in your past life and current life, what brought you into the Czech Institute, is my understanding, a big part of it was your obstacle course training specialty. And with that being said, what got you into this? What got you not only into coaching and guiding people, but it takes a different cat to like go into the Czech system. So what got you interested into pursuing this level of coaching and clinical rehabilitation?
Yeah, thank you. One, I just want to say thank you. I'm excited to be here and share.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's a very interesting story because I started out just as a personal trainer. And I say just a personal trainer because when I started, I didn't know how integrated the body was mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I was pretty heavy into obstacle training at that point. I was competing at a high level on American Ninja Warrior. And what started to happen is I started to get physical bodily aches and pains. I was having GI issues. I was having sleep issues. I was having anxiety issues. It got to the point in competing where if I went like 1 degree back, like I would like spasm, and then 1 degree forward and I would just spasm. And thankfully, because I was in Missouri at the time, thankfully the owner of the obstacle training facility that I was at was actually a Czech practitioner. And that's who kind of opened the door to me. But then I was able to take the courses and realize, oh my God, there's a lot more here than just working out and just moving my body in obstacle training. And it took the pain teacher and a complete annihilation of my life in every area. Like I waited until that pain teacher was like up to here, and it just kind of like destroyed every aspect of my life. And then it was like, you know what? I think Paul Chek might have something here. I think I'll try and get my sleep in. I think I'll try and work on my mindset. I think I'll try and eat clean foods. And as soon as I started to make that transition, my life just radically shifted. And I'm not saying I don't have challenges. I'm not saying I don't, get those opportunities. But what happened is I realized that there was a whole nother side of fitness and health and well-being. And then once I started implementing those, I became my own, test subject. And then my partner also became my test subject, and he ended up losing like 70 pounds. And it just kind of started my journey. And once I realized it worked, it was like, oh, I want to know more. I want to know more. Like once I took that HLC 1, oh my gosh, I want to know more. How does this relate to my beliefs? I want to know more. How does this relate to my programming? And it just kind of took off from there. But it was a real huge pain teacher and life crisis that actually brought me to the Czech Institute to realize, wow, I need to incorporate a whole lot more with my life and with my clients' lives.
Yeah. And so this is obviously a common occurrence in the world of sports, right? But in the world of life as well. But quite often, I don't know about you, but the pattern I see in people is one thing I've kind of adopted lately as a message is we live in this area between pain and injury, right? And this is like where most people like spend their time and energy in trying to figure it out. And then when they get to injury, then they get corralled into the American medical system, which is just a pharma for the drug system, as you well know. But before then, there's a lot of opportunity to optimize your situation. And like you mentioned earlier, the pain teacher, that's really God communicating with your soul, your mind, your body, and being like, hey, if you get this taken care of, you might be able to like get on that mission for you that we got for you. But a lot of people, they spend a lot of time trying to figure it out on their own. Was that something you had experienced, Kirsti, or did you just like go seek the most logical answer and solution you could find?
Oh, it was just that catastrophic hit. And then it was like, okay, I need to go looking for the answers and I need to figure it out, because there were numerous calls. It was a tap at first.
Yeah.
And then that tap got louder, and then the 2x4 came in, and then the bus came in. But yeah, it was just going to seek other practitioners, because in Missouri there wasn't many. And so it was just going to seek it out, read about it, start listening to what Paul's saying, what books is he recommending, being open-minded, because when I first started, I wasn't so open-minded and I was very rigid with my beliefs.
Oh, sure.
And what I thought health was.
Yeah, sure.
And so, yeah, I would say it was a big seeking, and that seeking's still there. I mean, as you know, it's kind of like a never-ending seeking.
That's the funnest part.
Finding how I can make my life better.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So now personal growth, hero's journey, like all these things, they've almost become cliche buzzwords, but we hear about it all the time. But like, if we were really like chop it up and just break that down, like quantify it a bit, in your opinion, observation, experience, whatever touchstone of wisdom that you want to call on right now, what is an actual growth opportunity look like for somebody?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting because I think we've become so identified that a growth opportunity has to mean pain, and it has to mean challenging or hurtful. The thing that I've learned along my journey is a growth opportunity doesn't have to necessarily be painful. For me, it was about getting quiet and learning to listen to what my soul had to say, or learning to listen to what the signs around me were wanting to say. So like an example is back in 21, I knew that there was a big shift that was coming and that was occurring. And what ended up happening is me and my partner, we decided we were going to uproot our life and just change and decide to RV our life around. Well, within 10 days of RV, that whole plan ended up changing, because I was at Paul's house and I'm like, okay, there's something inside me that's telling me I need to stay. And normally when I wasn't aligned and I wasn't healthy, I couldn't hear those as much. And so I was like, hey, you know what? I think we need to stay in California. And he was like, all right, we're going to do it. And so it's just those opportunities come in little voices, and they start in little voices, and they'll, in my opinion, they get louder. And the longer you wait, in my opinion, and in my experience, the longer you wait, that's when it can become more painful. But the opportunities, it's just getting quiet and listening, noticing what's around us, what animals are coming around, what are other people saying to us. There would be times when I would ask a question out to the universe and just looking for the answer, and I literally would see it on a billboard. I would see it like on a billboard. And so growth opportunities, I think, are everywhere, and they don't have to be massively shift your life and move across country and give everything up. But it could be like, hey, tap, tap, tap. You're starting to get in adrenal fatigue and you're really not happy with your job. And here's a growth opportunity for you to choose to go deeper into yourself and find what you really love in this life, or stay here and kind of feel it a little bit longer, and that tap gets louder and louder. And so for me, especially when I was unhealthy, I didn't hear the taps because I didn't trust myself. And then when I learned to get quiet and listen to that voice and trust myself, those growth opportunities, I started to see them a little bit more, and trust when I make the choice to make the change for growth, it doesn't have to be so painful.
Oh God, that's beautiful. Beautiful. And this is what I meant, guys. This is what Kirsti does with words and editing and clips and videos. And she has this great way of just taking like this big ethereal concept and condensing it down to human words. It's a beautiful gift, Kirsti. And what I heard, what came up for me when you were talking was Carl Jung. And his theory on synchronicities, and
yes.
I don't even want to attempt to like paraphrase or even quote him on it, but I will give my takeaway on it. And basically what I took from his teachings in that particular arena is basically once we stop resisting the message from source, the message from God, right, that's keeping us, the choices we're making or choosing to stay out of alignment, remain out of alignment. Once we stop resisting that, then we are open to what's causing that pain, putting ourselves back in alignment. But then those synchronicities start happening, like you were saying, and it's serendipity, it's synchronicity. And if we're not aware and we're not open to healing the pain at the root cause, if we're not open to that, we're not even gonna listen, right? We're not even paying attention. It just goes right over our freaking head. And we see that over and over again. And what you describe is, what I communicate to my clients and the like is that's just being attuned to what? Right? Attuned to what? That's the big question. It's just like, now we're going to test your faith here. We're going to test your true beliefs on source and your relationship with God and what have you. So,
and it does, real quick, it does have a lot of trust. Like when you are making that change, like, when I first started with that, it was like, okay, change my mindset. Where is it? And it's like, allow it to process, allow it to go. And so that what you resist persists.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with it, it'll come. And then if you do deal with it, give yourself compassion, and kindness, and trust the process and surrender that, you're on your journey and you're going the right way.
Correct. And so this is something that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I see this a lot. And do not get offended, people, my wonderful religious friends. Don't get offended by this, but I see a lot of turmoil that occurs in my Christian clients. And
grew up Catholic.
Yeah, I love you. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's a big part of it. But there is this lack of true faith that keeps them out of alignment. So, and I'm not saying that has anything to do, like, I read the Bible every day, guys. Like, I look into every possible way to explore God there is within my resource realm, right? Which is like what I can find, what I have time for, what have you. But I'm very, very interested in the concept of God, but more than that, people's interpretation of God. So we have to trust that the message we're receiving is the true message, right? And that's not easy for those that lack faith, that lack the clarity, that lack whatever processes that it takes for you to stay in touch with your alignment path. So you obviously have full faith that the path you're on, as do I, that the path you're on is in alignment with your soul's mission, which comes directly from our Creator, in my humble opinion. You can't convince me otherwise. So what would you say to somebody that says, yeah, Kirsti, how does one know? How does one know that we're actually following the calling from the source?
Well, the first thing that I would say on that too is, like, the fact that you have doubt come in is totally normal.
Yeah.
It's totally normal. It's a muscle. It's there's numerous times when we moved out here, we had a lot of challenges up front, but we were creating something new. And there were moments where I did have to pause and stop and say, what is my end goal? Where do I want to go? And
Mhm.
my overall end goal is, does it make me happy? Does it make me happy? Is going on my journey making me happy? Is making this choice making me happy? Is the change that I'm looking towards, does that make me happy? And it doesn't mean that doubt never comes in. Of course, doubt can come in, but that's
Sure.
just a voice. That's why I loved your introduction is, my inner critic, her name's Olga. Her name's Olga, and she's this old, super kyphotic, has a cane. And so when I see,
Dowager's hump.
yeah, completely horrible smoker, like has raspy voice and a cane. And I picture when I'm having this doubt come up and I'm having these thoughts come up of like, oh my gosh, am I really on the path? Am I really in alignment with where I want to go? I think about almost identifying it with her, and she's got her little cane and she's just poking me and stuff like that. And I think that can be a good thing, because if you're just blindly going on this path being like, woo, we're going to do this, and I'm not going to think about it, you can miss the signals that maybe you were going down this path and now it's time to pivot over here, and now it's time to pivot over here. But
Yeah.
getting really quiet with yourself and asking yourself the powerful questions. What is my end goal? What am I hoping that it looks like? And when I say end goal, it might just be end goal for this certain dream, because, once you get one goal, you create another and you create another and you create
Right.
another. But taking those moments to pause and ask yourself, what is my end goal? What choices am I making? Am I happy? Am I enjoying the tribe that's around me? Who am I wanting to become? Am I making those choices in this time to be that person? And when reflecting on those, if you're like, no, I'm not happy, or no, the choices that I'm making aren't creating more happiness in my world, then I would look at what is your goal. Maybe it's more ego driven than it is soul driven. And having that authentic look, like when I was on American Ninja Warrior, was, it was really ego driven. I wanted people to see me and I wanted people to know who I was. And it did take a lot of, that pain teacher coming in, but I wasn't asking myself those questions. I wasn't asking what really made me happy. Was it happy just doing the sport, or was I then going to be happy once I made the victory and then people gave me the credit I felt like I deserved? So taking moments, asking yourself important questions, and then allowing yourself to change. There's moments when I've been creating something for myself and I'm like, you know what? That isn't my dream anymore. I've been in it a little bit, and that's totally okay. And I've loved the journey that I've had up to this point. But I think I would be happier more if I started changing my practice over this way, or if I started seeing clients in this way, or if I started to create my life this way, and giving yourself permission to change your mind. But it really comes down to honest, authentic conversations with yourself, and then honest reflection of your life and your choices, in my opinion.
Totally, absolutely. And so much there to unpack. And there's a couple things that came up there that for us, they're just givens, but for the audience, they might not be. And one thing, before the comments start coming in, or the DMs, or the, the what have yous that start pouring in, guys, we understand that everything that we do has to be based on solid foundational core values, and really getting in touch with your true purpose and what have you, and everything Kirsti's talking about, that work would have already been done. So that is absolutely foundational. And then what I love about your message and the way you sold it was like what you just said there. That could be applied to really just about any belief concept, right? Like that, in the world of Christianity, that would be, what are you being led by, right? What is it? Are you following the Holy Spirit? Are you following Christ, right? And then we get in arguments about things that don't matter. But the whole purpose there is like, how does Kirsti know that it's okay to switch paths after she's already established her dream, and this is a step to the dream, and then she can switch, right? And not feel like she's lost touch with living in alignment. And the answer is because if you are guided by your soul, which is connected directly to God, if that is what is guiding you, then that is the only time it's okay to do that, in my humble opinion, right? And because the way these things work, the way source works, the way God works, the way our purpose works, is sometimes we have to really believe that the thing that we are about to attack right now, in your case, the Ninja Warrior, right? Some of my clients, maybe it's mixed martial arts or some competition that they're preparing for. But we have to really believe that that is our big mission right now, our big mission in life. We have to do this, right? But once we get there and we realize that ain't it, well, without that experience, how do we make the proper pivot towards our true purpose? We had to have that experience. And if God would have let us know at the beginning, this isn't the end goal. Well, I've never trained for Ninja Warrior, but I can imagine that there are many days where you're training much harder than you would have if you weren't going for that. Right.
Yeah.
And so guys, before the comments start rolling in, like, that's where that's coming from. And it's all about, what are you being guided by? Right. Am I hearing you right, Kirsti? Like,
yeah,
is your soul guiding you, or like you mentioned, your ego? And I want to dig into that here pretty soon too, because I love that you brought that up.
Absolutely. And I was going to say as well, like, what's beautiful is when you are on your journey, like, even though that part of my life was more ego driven, the things that I learned during that period have helped me with where I am now, and have helped me with the vision I'm living out now. So just because you might be on that journey and you may be in it and you're like, oh, this is no longer my path, don't think that time there is going to go to waste. By no means. That's so important in the end result of stuff that it matters. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you can't build a house with just concrete and rebar, but when it's time to pour the foundation, there's nothing more important than that, right?
Exactly.
That is all of a sudden the number one thing that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And so we can talk about, like, the benefits of answering that call and taking action on it and trusting and having faith in the process, right? Being guided by the right things. But we all have probably countless times not answered that call. So what happens when someone doesn't answer the call? What is at stake?
Yeah. In my opinion, and this is from my experience with clients, is the pain teacher starts to come in. Unhappiness starts to come in. Depression starts to come in, because we're living our life usually for other people, and that's usually out of our programming. And we start feeling almost this stagnation, or for me, I felt this stuck feeling, like I was in a box, and my health started to decline, and my behavior started to become more erratic, and I was lashing out at the people that I loved, and I was lashing out at myself. And so for me, in my experience and all that, is it starts to pull you away and create almost your own hell on earth versus your own heaven on earth. And I don't want to say, like, just because you follow your soul, you're not going to have challenges. Like, the last 4 or 5 months of 2022 was very intense and very emotional, but I still knew that even though these were tough decisions I had to make, it was clearing things out so that I could open up and receive more and create more in alignment with where I wanted to go.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so we talked about, we've talked about ego a little bit, and I guess now is the time to unpack that. So would you share with the audience, like, what you would say the difference is truly between the ego and the soul, and why are they both necessary, if they are both necessary?
I'm going to say I am no expert by any means. I feel like
who is though, really?
I feel like anytime I sit on Paul's lecture about ego and soul, I'm still like mind boggled. So this is my understanding of it. The ego can be a very beautiful thing. It's what makes us this individual on this earth. It makes a sense of who Kirsti is, and that driven. And it's kind of like what that saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
So knowing that being a performer just makes my ego so happy.
Yeah.
And people recognizing me makes my ego so happy. But at the same time, if I am just discard that altogether, I'm technically losing an aspect of myself that has helped drive me. And so I think it's about having a healthy relationship with that. It's totally okay to be known as long as I'm in alignment with my soul purpose. So I believe that soul, in my opinion, is that connection with divinity, that connection with God, connection with source, whatever you want to call that. And that is really the real mission of why I'm here. Because my soul could give two shits whether people know me. It could give, it could give two shits. But if it doesn't care, what's going to get me up, moving, and going?
Right. I like to say, I mean, if the ego is unnecessary, there's a lot of you got like Abrahamic religions, and they don't really talk about the ego per se, right? They use different terminology. And then you've got like the Eastern philosophies who, when misinterpreted, people think that they advocate for just getting rid of the ego. And in fact, I guess some would actually outwardly say kill the ego.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah, my whole thing is like, if that was the whole point, what's the point of the meat suit? Why even bother coming down, putting on a meat suit, incarnating or being created, whatever your belief structure is? I personally believe if you follow these back deep enough, and if you get into esoteric shit and the mystical shit, it's all the same thing. Because how many gods can there be, right? And if we take a look at many belief systems, God has an ego, and they don't want to talk about that, right? And it's just like, is that possible? Because what is ego? Ego is duality, right? One of the hardest questions to answer is, what is God? But what's a really simple question to answer, in my opinion, is, what is God not? God is not separate. That's the only thing God is separate, in my humble opinion, in my personal definition. So if we look at it like that, the only thing that God is not is separate, then God cannot have an ego, right? So it's up to us to have an ego, right? Yeah.
So, and I do think that that's a big thing in culture, where people are like, kill your ego. And I don't think I think it's about having a healthy relationship with your ego. And, I've had a few instances this past week to 2 weeks where I was like full on in it. Like, I got recognition for something, and I just looked at some people I knew, and I go, my ego ate it up.
Sometimes I get in there and I just bathe in the shit. I don't care. Like, just go with it. Go with it.
And then I'm just like, and that's beautiful, and that's great, and that was a great experience. But if I keep making my choices because it felt good to my ego, then I can find myself in a very hard spot because it's ego driven. But to deny that my ego liked it would then also be then the reverse thing of it, and still cause things with it. Sorry about that helicopter.
Absolutely. Oh, it's okay. The FBI. We got an FBI and ATF office going in right below me. So it's kind of a funny joke right now. But yeah, absolutely. It's the whole, kill your ego thing. But what's saying that? Is that your ego that's telling me to kill my ego, or is it your soul telling me to kill my ego? Right? Absolutely. And if what is ego really? Like, what is the expression of ego? Well, that's our personality, right? Without our personality, what are we, right? And so it's like the whole mission is to get the healthiest relationship with your ego through the lens, through how you're using your personality. And the more that you can effectively use your personality, the more your ego and your soul are working together as opposed to apart. And what's the problem? Your personality. So let's just, let's just look at it for what it is. That doesn't mean kill the ego, because then you kill your personhood. You're not a person,
It's like equal to, in my opinion, it's equal to the shadow. If you don't look at the shadow and you don't deal with the shadow, it's going to come up.
Exactly. And one might argue that's our whole mission on this rock, right? That's the whole reason why we're doing this, right? Is to expose all those shadows, because in the ethereal realm, there are no shadows, right? I mean, it's just, what's there to hide? There's no ego. There's no personality. There is no person, right? It's just you. Here I am. So anyway, I think it's all, it lies somewhere in between, probably probably in between like some strict religious perspective and like it's all just a game. It lies in there somewhere. Like the answer is in there somewhere. And we probably wouldn't be able to describe it with words anyway. It's like we've got 2-dimensional words to explain an 11th dimension concept. Like it can't be done. It can't be done. It cannot be done.
As soon as we put it in words, we've ruined it.
Oh, gracious. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was at a Bible study a couple weeks ago, and if any of you guys are watching, you know I love you. But, you know, it was we got into a couple semantics, right? And it was like one of the ones that just cracked me up was like, do you believe this is the written word of God? And I'm like, that book that you got your hand on right there with your name on it. Yeah. Man, we're going to have to clear some shit up before I answer that question safely because, first of all, what is God? Right. And then that's where it started. That's where it started, you know, and then it just boils down to, well, either that book's the written word of God, not the written word of God, or every book is the written word of God, because where does God stop? Right.
Yep.
And we can keep playing this game. I got a lot of shovels. Let's keep digging. Like, let's keep going. Right.
Yeah.
And so knowing that obviously there is a difference between the two and, you know, to be guided by one and not guided by the other, like that leads to over and under expressing who we truly are. Right. And would you say that in your past life, being guided by the ego more so than the soul, what were some of the shadows that created in your life that you are now glad that you've illuminated?
Tons of insecurities. Tons of insecurities. Tons and tons of insecurities of, you know, not being enough, not being smart enough, not being the best check practitioner, not,
right.
you know,
all the checkies are like, what about Paul?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when it comes to business relationships, you know, over finding myself in burnout and fatigue because I didn't feel like I was enough. And so I felt like I had to do more. And then I would stay up late doing stuff. And then, you know, in personal relationships, not feeling worthy enough to call in beautiful partners to be with, you know, and then just not thinking that I'm worthy for the life that I truly want to live. And those insecurities just came flooding out, like so many of them. And then once, you know, I started to acknowledge them, it was great because it was like, it's okay to be insecure about that and then work on it. Like, okay, if I'm insecure and thinking my work's not enough, where did that come from? Where does that belief stem from? Who told me I wasn't enough? Why am
who
I
says what enough is?
That? Yeah. What
who determines that? Yeah.
Where's
what's enough?
The line? Yeah. Yeah. Where's the line? And so it was tons and tons and tons of insecurity. And it was almost like this vicious cycle of the insecurity would come up. So I would make an ego-driven move to try and like hide it. It's kind of like stuffing things behind you, or like a toddler thinking they're getting away with something, but they're not getting away with anything. And it just built and built and built. And it was like this cycle of insecurity, ego-driven thing. Another insecurity came on top of it, ego-driven thing. And so by the time I chose to look back at it, it was a big old pile of insecurities that I had to deal. Well, I didn't have to. I chose that it was finally time for me to look at them and deal with them because it didn't feel good.
Right. Yeah. And like how many people listening to this now or later are going to hear that and go, that's me. Right. Guess what? That's everybody. That is everybody, right? Like, who is that not describing? Guys, and what she just said is to the point. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are, so long as you don't know what enough really means. You don't know what adequate really means, right? Because for all intents and purposes, it's bullshit, made up fallacy, fantasy land, la woo woo, fluffy, airy fairy shit, right? Adequate doesn't exist as a whole. In other words, you can't say that Kirsti is adequate or inadequate as a person, right? Now, when it comes to slam dunking a basketball, I can tell you right now, I am 100% inadequate to slam dunk a basketball from the
floor with you
on a 10-foot rim, right? And I'm okay with that. Right? Mm-hmm. But so long as that we're tied into that illusion, and this is, you know, in my coaching world, this is part of the work with the false core that I do with people. But that's like this belief that we form about ourselves is just absolute nonsense, but it's so powerful and it's so seducing, so seductive that it uses its sorcery on us, and everything we do is tied into that feeling of whether it be worthless, inadequate, or whatever yours is, Kirsti. But one day we're feeling on top of the world. Oh my gosh, everything's great, right? Well, why? This happened, and I'm so adequate for the minute. That's right.
And then we fall in that cycle of thinking that every single day needs to be that, and we're like running ourselves into
knowing
burnout.
It's temporary, right?
Yeah.
It's temporary because I know I'm inadequate, so like this feeling of adequacy is only going to last a minute, right?
Yeah.
And it's just. But you mentioned, like, you said something about childish, right? And when we get to that space, where we can be present, balanced, right, and create the time and space and energy we need to actually address that, and then once you do, like, I don't know about you, Kirsti, but for me, whenever I drill that stuff down with myself or with others, it's always, we just have the best laugh, because it's child. It's like a kid telling you, like, I made an elephant. That's not an elephant. That's a blue. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's a cute little elephant. Yeah, thanks. I'm going to put it right here. Right? It's just like almost a similar process once you get there. But when you're in the middle of it, it's just so like real.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, like, as you're through it, like, and this is where, like, I think, at least for me, my ego was like, don't show emotions. How dare you? Like, how dare you? You know what I mean? Feel. And like, the biggest thing was like when I gave myself permission to feel, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's okay to cry, or it's okay to just be in complete pleasure, or it's okay to like whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're throwing all these crazy rules on ourselves, and we're just passing them down. And it's like, no, like, I don't agree to that. I don't want to pass that on. Being close with Zoe and Mana, learning to teach them, and being like, the sky's the limit, man. You can go anywhere. You can, like, Mana's really good with his like money mindset. Like, he's like, one time he's like, $50, no problem. I'm like, hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Get that, and I think it's about encouraging that. And
totally. Yeah. Kids are just so, I mean, you can get a kid to be individuated so quick. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, of course that belief is silly. Why wouldn't it be silly? Right. It's like, yeah, I can do this. Right. I mean, they believe in Superman and Santa Claus. Like, so like that, let's teach them. I love it. I watch what you and Michael do with them. And it's awesome. It is just awesome. And so as we're winding down, Kirsti, I got a couple of surprise questions for you. Absolutely. Are you ready for this? Nothing you can't handle, I promise. But the first thing I want to ask you is I'm sure you've paid attention to my content, and a big focus of my attention is on the absolute sorcery and manipulation that has gone on these last 2+ years, right? How they really just showed us how stupid they think we are. And I take offense to that. I choose to be offended by that. I like the wording you put there. And you want to talk about someone who doesn't get offended. Holy shit. But I also choose to maintain a certain level of, I don't want to say anger, but awareness, right? And ready to confront, not necessarily people, but confront the situation in any time that I feel is appropriate. So that being said, obviously not everybody agrees with me, and that's okay. But what is the biggest takeaway that you could say you've hung on to from the last couple years, personally, and what you've observed from the collective? When you mean hold on to, what do you mean? What is a takeaway you've gotten from the last couple years? Oh, well, what's great is I think they both are in the same category. Okay, I think all right. My personal and the collective, self-responsibility. Self-responsibility, taking care of your health, showing up for yourself, not creating a mommy and daddy figure to tell you what you need to do, because self-responsibility is not allowing yourself to be brainwashed, is not allowing, doing the full research. And so, and it's amazing, because I feel like over the 2 years, my self-responsibility has gone up so much, and it's given me more sovereignty to make decisions that I feel are best for me. And I think for myself,
the self-responsibility, and for other people who have taken the opportunity to become self-responsibility have stayed aware of certain scare tactics or fear that I believe that they're kind of pushing onto the collective. And the self-responsibility just allows you to figure out, how to best support yourself and how to support your tribe and how to have compassion for yourself and have compassion for other people as well, without them running over your boundaries and without them silencing your voice, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense, right? I think that all points to individuation, right? Like, are you individuated? Are your thoughts and beliefs yours? And like you said, that personal responsibility, and you brought something up that's very, very poignant, even though that people weren't really listening closely, they might have missed it. But I'm not like, not individuals, but I am going to call out the coaching industry, the health coaching industry, and in particular, the holistic health coaching industry. And here is why. Because you cannot say in one breath, speak like Kirsti and I have been talking here for the last hour. Hey, this is important, that's important, ego this, soul that, right? We've been jamming on all the popular topics, but you can't say in the same breath, you don't need this jab, you don't need this, I'm sorry, you don't need this belief system, you don't need to be guided by fear. Great, that's going to get the whole show canceled. Way to go, Jerry. I said the word, dang it. I even got a note right here. Don't say vaccine. But cat's out of the bag. But the last couple of years, and I've watched it, and I've been paying attention. And if you know who you are, you can't tell people don't be guided by fear. You can't tell people your body is made to heal. You can't tell people make sure that you accept your beliefs as your own. You don't adopt everybody else's programming, yada, yada, yada. You can't deliver that same message and at the same time be scared to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So the people that are out there, if you are not sharing your feelings, you are part of the problem. You are part of the damn problem. One way or the other. And I'm not saying that means you have to agree with me or people like me. But damn it, let people know where you stand. Because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and I get it. And a lot of people don't want to hear it, and I get it. But tough shit.
And I think you can do. I think you can do it with love. I think there's this 100%. Perception that you can't. Like you have to be this like rah. Like no, you can so.
Yeah, that's just how I do it. You don't have to. Everybody has to.
Oh, I love your style.
Yeah, but that's me, right? That's me. That's my personality. When I get worked up, I'm like on top of the hill. Let's go. Let's roll. Come on. We're gonna push this boulder up this hill, you and I, right? Or
I watch your TikToks.
Guarding our what we treasure. But guys, if you give people a place to run where they can go hide and not think about the fact that there's evil people trying to take over the world, and I know that sounds like a cartoon, but what is it really? What do you call it, right? If you give people that place to hide where they can not hear about it, then they're not going to hear about it. So if you really believe strongly that this is all BS, then it's time for every one of you to stand up and say something about it. Otherwise, shut up, quit DMing me. Okay? All right? Notice is out there. All right. It's been said. All right. And Kirsti, it was just like your response motivated me. Okay. So, and then the final one right here.
Yeah.
Akashic Records time. All right. We're going to pull from and contribute to those Akashic Records, right? The collective consciousness and unconsciousness. If you could share one message with all of humanity, and it's going to get out there, and it will be available for the rest of time, what would that be?
Always be yourself. Doesn't matter who's along for the journey, because the people who are supposed to be along for the journey are going to be along for the journey. And if you're acting like someone who you are not, you're going to build friends, and you're going to build a life, and you're going to build everything around you that's not you. And you have this facade, and it gets heavy. It gets so heavy the longer you do it. And what's beautiful is there's only one you. Like the weirdest shit you do is amazing. Like, do that. Like, be quirky, be weird. Do that thing, because that weirdness and that quirkiness and that point of view is what's going to bring in your authentic tribe. That's what's going to bring in the authentic life that's you. And you don't have to have all these different masks of like, okay, I'm going over here and I'm throwing on this mask, or going over here and I'm throwing on this mask. You literally just breathe and be you. And I know that can be hard. Like, trust me, I've lost friends. I've disconnected from some family members. I've gone through some of that stuff. And I've also called in more tribe that's more aligned with who I am. I don't feel like I have to hide who I am. I don't feel like I have to hide my weirdness. I was talking with someone today about like not feeling like I have to be someone different when I'm doing something live versus pre-recording it. Like, you just
Right.
You just get to be you. You just get to be you. And you're not gonna attract everyone, and that's okay and that's good. But when you're you really get to align with a life that you love, in my opinion, and in my experience, and things that I have liked. And it can be scary at first, especially when you're by people who aren't supportive. But if you just keep going and don't let them throw water on your light, like, protect that light. Like, I used to think about it as like, I think I read it in a book, it's like an egg, and it's a delicate egg, and not everyone gets to hold it because it can drop. It's fragile. It can crack. But the more you nurture it, it's going to get bigger, and it's going to get bigger, and you're going to have tribes. And I mean, like, the people by me, I am just like who I am, and learning to do that on social media. That was the biggest thing. I post when I feel like posting, and I'm going to post on what I feel like posting about. And if you want to watch, great. And if you don't want to watch, great. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And be yourself. Be yourself.
I love it. I love it. One can never know if they are in the wrong circle if they never reveal who they are within their circle. Right. Mm-hmm. So beautiful. Kirsti, I think that's the perfect ending right there. There's nothing I can add to that. Where can people find you? I will put your website in the show notes, but is there places on social media they can find you and stumble across your brilliant content? Beautiful.
Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. They can find me both on TikTok and Instagram at Kirsti.Pratt, and that's KIRSTI period Pratt, PRATT. And yeah, like I said, I put out things that I feel called to. Sometimes I post once a week. Sometimes I post multiple times a week. You get what you get. And if you like the journey, wonderful.
Yeah, it's well worth the follow, guys. I can guarantee that. All right, Kirsti. Well, I thank you for everything. Stick around for a couple minutes when we're done here. I'll give you details on what we're doing after this. But guys, I thank you for tuning in. Check Kirsti out. If you don't follow her, give her a follow. And she's just getting started. I can't wait to watch your journey unfold. And as always, guys, if you ever need anything, I'm available for you. You can reach out to me on DM. You can reach out to me on email, jerry@biohackingtruth.com. Text me. Give me a phone call. I don't care. It happens all the time. 406-241-3763. Again, that's a direct line. And one more time, I'm excited to share with you my superfood supplement line and meal replacement line. Click the Linkfly link in my bio. You can save $50 today by making your first purchase. There's plant-based stuff there. There is gut health, a lot of gut health supplements. There's meal replacements, like I mentioned, CBD. This is a top quality, top-notch producer. They are organic. They are sustainable. They think about the land. They think about the soil that they're harvesting. So if it wasn't a company like that, I can promise you 100% I would not be involved whatsoever. So that being said, I thank you guys for tuning in. Keep an eye out for your Substack and Spotify subscriptions. This will be uploaded very soon. But until next time, peace, much love, and live well.
Thank you.
Thank you.